Good evening, my friends. It's BigCheds coming to you live on Thursday, May 30th, 2019. I'm really glad you guys could join me. Oh, sorry about that. A little backplay. Hope everyone's doing all right here tonight. A lot of volatility in the crypto market. I know we finally hit that level that a lot of you were watching for, that 9K break. What is it? The Vegeta, whatever you want to call it. I'm not into anime, but I know everybody was waiting for that. They had that ready to post, as soon as it broke 9K. So you're like, BigCheds, why do you have the 15-minute chart open? You never have the 15-minute chart open. Well, I'm just kind of taking a little look because we were just in the midst. We're just in the middle of some volatility here. So we'll kind of, lean right into the 15-minute chart. We'll expand out from there. And then I'll take those altcoin chart requests, and definitely I'll say hi to everybody in the chat room. I see people starting to show up. Definitely good to see you here as well. Want to remind everyone you can find me. I'm on Twitter at BigCheds. You can find my good friend, my homeboy. He is on Twitter at, that's actually me as well. But I'm looking for Big Chonas. So let's do it this way. Put myself in twice. So you want to find this guy on Twitter. He's at Big Chonas. He's also on YouTube at Chonas Trading. Check him out. I'm also a founding analyst at Bitcoin Live, the best-in-class educational platform for crypto. Just a project I'm very proud to be involved in, and we'll talk more about that later. So what's going on with Bitcoin? So here's a 15-minute chart. Let's expand out a little bit, and let's just in the candles initially. Just as a reminder, I'm not an advisor. I'm just someone who likes to talk about crypto. I love interacting with you. I think of myself as a newbie helper. I wrote the complete beginner's guide to cryptocurrency trading. I wrote it while I was going through chemotherapy. It has over 100,000 views. I definitely encourage you to check that out. chedstrading.blogspot.com. Really just kind of, if you want to get started, I feel like it's a really solid guide. Definitely encourage you to check that out. So yeah, I'm just someone who likes to talk crypto. I like to talk charting. I'm a Japanese candlestick trader. For me, volume is everything. So when I look, the first two things I look at a chart are the candles and the volume. And then I kind of look out from there. From there, I'll look at the oscillators, starting with the on-balance volume, and then I'll kind of, I'll go from there. Of course, the Bollinger Bands are intricate, are kind of critical for my strategy. So, that's what guides me, and I kind of build out from that. Just if you're new to me or new to this channel, what's interesting here on the 15-minute chart, and I talk a lot about the 8 EMA, and I am almost never on this low a time frame, right? Because you know me, I like to go 12-hour, daily, weekly. That way you don't get whipsawed as much. But look at this green line, the 8 EMA. So it's pinned. On any kind of powerful uptrend, you'll see the 8 EMA, and what the price will do is bounce and come back to it, right? It bounces and comes back to it, right? And that's the first level. So you can see bears here, full control rejection right here, right? Look at those upper shadows. So you have kind of, I don't know if you would call it a rising wedge, you call it a bear flag, you can call it a bear pennant. You can draw it any number of ways, but regardless, it looks like bearish continuation. You have to respect the amount of volume on the sell-off candle. You have to note the lack of follow-through buying, the bulls defending their territory. So that's 15-minute. Let's back out. Let's go 1 hour. Well, before I jump forward, that 15-minute, you can see, even with the RSI here in the sub 30, you kind of got a little mercy bounce, but you didn't really see any kind of juice on it. And you can see the on-balance volume, no sign of strength. That's what we're going to be looking for. Let's go to the 1 hour chart. What are we seeing in the 1 hour chart? Let's go back to the candles. We're seeing a bullish harami. What's a bullish harami? What is harami position? Let's pull it up for the people who are not familiar. And I have that over here. I'm just going to slide the image. What's a harami position? A bullish harami. You have, in this case, you could even argue a spinning top, but a little bigger than a spinning top. It's an inside, it's also an inside bar with the upper lower shadow, but the candle body is within the prior ranged candle body, and the prior ranged candle body is a big one. So really, this definitely qualifies for a bullish harami. However, you're noting, if you're a good candlestick trader, the lack of volume on that second candle. So what you'd want to see ideally on this bullish harami is you'd want this volume to be higher than the prior candles volumes. This tells you it's kind of a weak, it's a weak bullish harami. We could potentially be forming kind of like a 3 inside up that will fail. So what am I talking about? 3 inside up. Let's see where I have that labeled inside. Here we go. So we could form it with a bullish harami, right? It could be forming a 3 inside up, but doesn't even have enough strength to do that. Looks like. So we're looking at the lack of volume on the bull response candle. That's the 1 hour, right? We're just kind of glancing through the time frames. You need to. Why am I doing this? You need to keep a perspective in mind. It's so easy to get caught up in the moment, right? And especially if you don't watch these things all day long, like addicts like me and these other people you see on crypto Twitter tweeting this stuff. I mean, if you don't have time for that, so easy to get caught up in the moment. So you'll see a tweet on my feed in the last couple of days talking about a scientist changing the magnification. When looking at like a specimen sample and trying to change the magnification, trying to get the right view. And we're starting out 15 just because things are volatile. We're building out to the 1 hour, we're building out to 12 hour, and kind of that's what we're doing right now. So we're gonna go 1 hour. We still have the RSI, right? A little bit of a mercy bounce. But look at the OBV is weak. Okay, so bears look like they're in control still. That's in the 1 hour. We can start to look for support. Candlestick theory. This candle, the midpoint down is when support starts. So if we're going on a 1 hour, and for me that's way too early still, but just based on candlestick theory, you have to respect the volume on this candle and the size of that real candle body. What does that teach us? The midpoint of this candle to the base of that candle should be support. It's a pretty big range, but lo and behold, look what happened, right? Boom, low of a range. Now it's kind of consolidating at the mid of the range, right? The midpoint of that candle. This is textbook candlestick theory. Nissen talks about this more in his second book, but this is interesting. So, but right, where's the kind of bulls defending their territory, right? So there's two things. It found support at a logical area, but we have to respect the fact that where's the momentum, right? Who has the trend, right? Bears have the trend right now, short term. Bulls are going to have to defend harder. That's what I'm seeing so far. Let's go to 4 hour. All right, so 4 hour is a great time to look at all these time frames. Look, 43 minutes left. So the 4 hour candle is almost completely formed. When we do the 12 hour, it will be almost completely formed. Same with the daily. So you do not run the same risk of over-interpreting an oscillator that hasn't completed yet. Right? That's a classic mistake I see people making. Is for example, right? Let's say that this is a 4 hour and it's a brand new 4 hour candle. They're kind of paying attention to the RSI, the OBV, whatever. These things calculate on the close. So you can't give it full weight until the candle's closed. Here we're, 80% through the candle. So I'm very comfortable looking at a 4 hour. That's why right now is a great time to do the charts. This is when I do my watch list scan, one of my favorite segments in Bitcoin Live, complete watch list scan. Let me teach you how to fish. I teach you, I scan my whole altcoin watch list, right? I go this list right here, right, from top to bottom, and I go, and you get to hear me kind of thinking out loud as I'm going through them, and I do it at this time. This is the best time to do it because the candle's about to close. What does the 4 hour tell us? We have accelerating bear volume. We have a little bit of lower shadow here. Bulls rejecting lower prices. Okay, we have a clear Bollinger Band pinch. I put a tweet out a couple days ago. Look at that BB pinch, and it was right about here. That's when you're expecting volatility, okay? When that happens, I mean, look at that. Okay, boom, volatility. Little bit of a starting to pinch, but not so much. All right, pinching, volatility. All right, so, Bollinger Bands are very straightforward. If you want to learn how to play them, check that free guide, chedstradingblogspot.com. I talk about that. Pardon me, I'm going to have a drink of water. 4 hour tells us accelerating bull volume. We have some accelerating bear volume. We have some defending of territory by bulls, but taking that into context, given how far below the lower Bollinger Band you are. So it only makes sense to return to the Bollinger Band. So like, let's say this starts to downtrend. Watch the price bounce off the EMA 8, right? For example. All right, what else do we see? RSI is still above. It's not even in oversold territory yet. So a lot of people trade the 4-hour. A lot of people, right? So they're coming over here. They're drawing horizontal support. You know, they're looking at the prior highs. Where was the prior? You want to see the prior resistance. You want to see, is this resistance now turned into support? You see people saying, wow, that's a big level, right? This is a big level. If you cannot hold this support, let's say right around the 8,200 level, you're in big trouble because that becomes resistance. So now we're starting to step out. You know, 4-hour, we can see a little bit more, give it a little bit more perspective. We have the higher lows, very obviously. So now you're marking, okay, where are the higher lows? There's your higher low. There's a higher low. By the way, if you enjoy this video, I definitely encourage you to hit that thumbs up button. If you don't enjoy it, that's cool too. Hit thumbs down. Also tell me why, you know, in the comments or just in the chat room. So, you know, this is what we're seeing here in the 4-hour chart. So we're heading right back. We kind of, you know, big, nice little move there. Potential up thrust, right? Potential, bull trap, right? You have a spring, right? A spring is where price is falling and you dip below a support, but then you run. That's called an up thrust. That's called a spring, right? A false bear break. Here, potentially the false bull break, the up thrust, right? So that may be what we're looking at is the up thrust. So we definitely want to keep an eye on that. And so we're comparing from the lower time frames. We're definitely comparing that the RSI is not below 30 yet. That's something we have to keep an eye on. Hold on. Sorry about that. Just had the phone ring. So that's what we're going to keep an eye on. We're definitely keeping on the higher lows potentially. You know, I would say if it breaks, if it can't hold 8,200, you're definitely looking at like a 76 to 8K test. That's just on the 4-hour. Let's go 12-hour. All right. Let's go 12-hour. Let's wipe it clean and let's go fresh. Right. Just do it like that. Get a sense of the time frames. We started 15-minute. Now we're at the 12-hour. All right, this is what I was watching before. What do we have here? EMA 34. So this is kind of bigger picture. So this puts the move in context, right? Right. What happened after it tested the EMA 34 last time? It rallied to the middle Bollinger, and then it pushed again. Ultimately rejected at the same area of supply. Pulled back, found demand at a support resistance flip. So it flipped this level, right? Let's do it more simple. Right? Boom. So what did it do? It took this resistance, right? Failed support, reinitiated resistance, broke through, it held it in the back test. Right? That's what happened after it tested the EMA 34 last time. So is it going to do something like that again? Is it going to test the EMA 34? Is it going to bounce and find support the middle Bollinger? We don't know. It is kind of notable that the volume is similar. So you have kind of a similar volume, perhaps after kind of a similar top structure, kind of like a towered, you know, roughly speaking, a tower top. This one's a little bit more like a tower top, especially if you go in higher time frames. All these spinning tops, all these small real candle bodies. What's a tower top? There we go. What's a tower top, BigCheds? Don't just throw terms out. That's a tower top, right? So you have kind of a tower top. Probably looks like it in the 12-hour. I mean, on the daily. Maybe even in the 3-day, but that's just crazy indecision. It pulled back. So that's interesting, right? Now we're here in the 12-hour, right? We're looking at kind of a similar construction, potentially. You have the pullback to EMA 34 after riding the upper Bollinger. You know, so you have to respect the Bollinger Band. You have to respect what happens when you breach the upper Bollinger Band. Here, you made a new high. Here, you pulled back before making a new high. Here, what are you doing? You're pulling back. Okay, what are we doing here? Right? Pull back a little bit, consolidated, pushed, pulled back, pull back. So still pulled back from the upper Bollinger Band before making a new high within this uptrend. So bulls still have our bulls are totally still in charge macro. But what micro, right? What about in the next hour or the next 15 minutes? We don't know. It's very possible, and this is really just to put into context the EMA 34. There's only one contact point. It's just once. You can't, 2 points is not equal a trend line. All right, you really need three. So, and then kind of like a convergence. But 2 points, okay, fine, maybe, but it doesn't tell me that it's not just going to crash right through it. It doesn't tell me that. So maybe I want to zoom out, get a little bit bigger perspective. So, all right. Oh, wait, Cheds, oscillators. You're right. Sorry about that. What do we have here? All right, RSI mid channel, very cool. Pulling back to RSI support, kind of where it's kind of pulled back to before. That puts this move in a little bit of context, especially if bulls will continue the initiative. On balance volume is still strong. Little bit mild bearish divergence. If I take in the OBV, I guess that's my high right there. That's where my close is. So we have, in theory, right, calculated on the close, right, on balance volume. So where we have a lower high versus, in this case, a slightly higher high that's bearish divergence, that expressed itself more clearly on the daily chart. I put that tweet out. So that's what the oscillators are telling us. Let's take a look at the daily chart. And before I go to the candles, I'll point out what I was just saying. Bearish divergence. So that gave us a clue right here. Boom. When we were right there, when we were closing there, these 2 days, bearish divergence was I mean, even right here, from the 27th on, right? So if you know me, you follow me, I don't pay attention to bearish divergence in the RSI really that much. I want to see it in the on balance volume, because it's not until usually that it hits in the on balance volume that there's a problem. Like right here, for example, RSI bearish divergence, but like price was just chilling, consolidating. You could see it was still being accumulated. All right, this tells you it was accumulated. This gave you almost a bullish divergence where it was rising with the price, maybe even a little bit higher. I mean, it was still being accumulated. All right. So what does that tell us? So this is what I'm trying to say. On balance volume, bearish divergence. This is why it's important to me, right? Because on balance volume, it just tells me if people are dumping it or loading it. All right. Simply put. So what is bearish divergence, Big Ched? Do you have a chart for that? Sure. I got you, homie. Bearish divergence. In this case, we have the oscillator, which is the on balance volume with a lower high. All right. And then we have the price making a higher high. Right. So that kind of gave us a clue potentially that this was about to happen. This gave us a clue that that it was about to kind of drop down. So that's what the daily chart is telling me. Let's zoom in though on the candles. So what are we looking at here? MA20. So it's really riding the EMA 8, right? So what did I talk about EMA 8? I said before the green line. Remember this? All right. So let me refresh you. I'm going to jump back here. I promise. Let's go Bitcoin 15-minute. There it is. EMA 8, the green, right, on downtrends. That's your resistance. Okay. On uptrends, it's your support. It's not exact, but support held here. Kind of held there, more or less held there, held there. So what are we doing here? We have a little bit of room for wiggle room, especially if I kind of allow this one. So I think we have to see the next day or two, kind of if we're playing the 8 EMA. But the difference is, I think we have to look at the Bollinger Band construction. Look what the Bollinger Bands were doing. They were expanding in this context. That gave you, gave you a little bit, maybe a little bit more wiggle room. Here we have the Bollingers pinching. So maybe that tells us something different. It's still really early to kind of declare we're going to break 8 EMA support. On the lower shadow, of course, we caught the MA20, the simple moving average, middle Bollinger Band, simple moving average 20. We're definitely looking at the volume in this compared to other selling candles. So upper shadow and lower shadow. So it's a high wave candle with these long. This is a high wave candle, even though it's not a spinning top. Let's see. What's a high wave candle? It's a high wave spinning top, right? That's a high wave spinning top, but it's not a spinning top. It's just high wave, long upper lower shadows. RSI is just cooling off, right? So it still looks like an uptrend. I mean, you could draw it a whole number of ways, right? And now next I'll move on to the weekly and I'll point out what's important there. But you could draw this any number of ways. You could draw it like that. You can kind of that using the candle close. Okay. You know, if you want to try to do some kind of candle shadow thing, it probably doesn't work out as well for you because you tried to go that way. So if you're trading off the lower shadow, you just had a bear break, and maybe that was your signal. So you totally could have been doing that. Boom, there's your signal. But that's a pretty sharp line. Like there's no way that's ever going to hold. So I don't think I would have been kind of that strict. I'd be looking more at that level. If I'm going in the daily chart, I'm looking at resistance that was turned into support, and that would correspond with the lower Bollinger and potentially the EMA 34. That's if this breaks down. That would be my plan on Bitcoin, like the 7,600 area. Let's go weekly chart, and I'm going to jump right into your chart requests. Let's take a quick look here. So weekly chart's bullish. I mean, we have to be honest. We've been talking about the 834 EMA cross. Same thing happened back at the end of 2015 when we were at, I believe, $280. Okay, right. That's when the 8. That's right. It is here. Right as it's doing here. That's when the 8 EMA crossed the 34. Right after the price tested and held support twice at the 200 period moving average. Right, and that's what we're seeing here. So this setup is eerily similar to the late 2015 setup. I talked about it on the when I went on Crypto Trader, which is an honor with CNBC's Africa Crypto Trader. It was an honor, and we were kind of watching the EMA 34 cross in relation to the two tests and support holds on the MA 200. So let's see. Let's zoom out here. That's a weekly chart, but we have to respect the fact that we're above the upper Bollinger Band, and it needs a little bit of time to cool off. So and weekly support just based on that last lower shadow, right there. So actually, I would say on weekly support, I'd probably want to see this level hold 8,200. I mean, that's really the name of the game right here. That would be the most ideal bullish scenario. But from our looks at the earlier time frames and the volume on these candles, so far we're not seeing what we need to see to have confidence that will happen. Still may happen. I want to see some follow through. Weekly chart, the RSI is hot on the weekly chart. We are still daily cooled off, but the weekly is still hot. That's interesting. Yeah, so about 73, 74. We're still in the power zone, heading kind of back down to a point where maybe we'd have a more sustained pullback around the 55, 56 level if it does fail here. Note the vigor index is showing exhaustion, and stochastics RSI has been in overbought territory, since the beginning of March. No, it doesn't matter so much because you can run like this for months, but at some point you have to cool off. So that's something you have to respect kind of when we're looking at the weekly chart. And if I'm playing the 8 EMA, which I very well might be, I'd be watching for a pullback to this green line. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other major altcoins. I'll do those real briefly. I'm going to go 12-hour chart. Let's see. That's Bitcoin. Let's go to BCH. So EMA 34, boom, support, boom, boom. All right, so EMA 34. So this is still bullish. You have to give the edge to bulls. On balance volume strength, you're seeing some nice accumulation here. Let's see if we're seeing that bear divergence on the RSI. So that's on the OBV. On the daily chart, we're seeing little bit of bearish divergence with the OBV. That's kind of my only caution here, because otherwise everything else is kind of checking out and looking like nice clean consolidation. 8 EMA here on the daily chart. Lower shadows kind of lining up in that same trajectory. You could probably even draw a line roughly. So it actually looks like it's playing just, kind of like clockwork. I don't know what else to say. So you still have to give bulls the edge. This is your only warning sign, is this bearish divergence. And with this pullback, it's a little bit less stark. If it were to bounce back to the upper Bollinger area, like a 460, 470, that would be, perhaps another sign that it's due for a pullback. And it is kind of trading in a channel. So we have to be cognizant of that, Bitcoin Cash. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum 250 daily chart. I guess we'll stay here in the daily chart. Looks like we might be losing the EMA 8 here. I'm not overly impressed with the volume in the sell-off candle, and I'm not seeing bearish divergence. So it's a little bit more of a mixed picture on Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't look like it's going to just drop off just yet. The question is, where would support be? There's not a clear level of support other than this 8 EMA within this particular uptrend. I think you'd have to use this hammer candle back from May 23rd, the lower shadow. It's gonna be right around $230. So if we do fail here on the 8 EMA, maybe watch for that 34 EMA. Lower Bollinger might even be a little bit higher at that point. Take a look at Litecoin, and I'm going to go to the chat room and take your chart requests. So Litecoin pretty straightforward in the sense that you can see what the levels are that bulls want to hold. This is the most important area to hold, essentially, right there. So what is that area? It's $100. So you really need to hold right around $100. That's where the price was rejected. That's where the price is rejected. We've broken through, and you had a little bit of it. Looked like an upthrust. Looked like a bull trap. Bulls came back and said, no, not so fast. So we're heading back to an area that looks critical for bulls if they want to continue to hold it. Bear divergence in the RSI, but not really seeing it in the OBV. So I'm not worried. Still looks very strong to me. Let's just kind of jump to the 12. Kind of see what's going on here. So it's a pretty good sell-off candle, but we have EMA 34 support as well. These are all kind of trading very similarly in the sense that they're respecting these moving averages as support. So we're going to continue to watch that, of course. Let's jump right over to the chat room. I just take this opportunity once again to remind you, I'm one of the founding analysts at Bitcoin Live, the best-in-class educational platform for crypto. I really encourage you, if you have any more questions about it, check out my webinar on the YouTube channel. I put out great educational material. I usually do 3 or 4 videos a week on Bitcoin. One of them is a watch list scan where I teach you how to find plays, as well as I have a candlestick guide, and I'm just one of, I think 9 people putting out content. So I'm just really proud of my involvement in that project. The sign up link is in this video thread. Definitely check it out. So let's see what's up, everybody. Frankie, Crypto, Max, Jonas, Trading. I am honored. Let's take a look around here. Dan, Brian, Crypto Bud Fox, Jeanette, good to see all y'all. Baron, Andre, Patrick, many more names. 13 Krotik. Great to see all you guys and gals. So let's see who has the first request. I think I saw Bat for Dan. What's up, Dan? We got to do Bat. I got to help you out here. Take a look at basic attention. Let's take a look at it. Let's go daily chart. We'll get the most value out of the daily chart. We have just 22 minutes left. I think that's a great time to do it. So let's just clear everything out. So it's right at an area, an important area right now. Why is that area important? We can note that back in February, the price was rejected there, found support after breaking through, and in recent memory, we can see that that it found support here, right, and found support here as well. So I think the bull's best case given that it's getting constantly rejected at the 8 EMA, is to kind of hold support here. I'm just going to check my notes. Pretty sure, yeah, I'm watching this, but not that closely because I just don't have confidence in it, given the weakness in the on-balance volume. If I saw that right now that it was being accumulated, that might give me a little bit more confidence. So for now, it looks bearish, and you can see we even pierced with the lower shadow on that last Bitcoin move. It's probably many other alts did. I would assume, but we broke that support. So I mean, if you just keep sliding down support, you're not in a good position. So bulls have to hold here. So let's move on. Let's take 13 Krotik. You're looking for ZRX. Let's do ZRX on the daily chart. Take a look at ZRX. So it's trying to find a higher low. It still hasn't found one. It's been quite a while. Really. And it's been downtrending for quite some time, unfortunately. Kind of the bigger picture, unfortunately, was this support break, either on the candle body, but especially this candle shadow. That's your resistance now, and that's an area that's important because you can see where it found support, resistance broke through, found support, and then if we kind of zoom in back to where we are now, consolidated here and lost it. Now it's resistance. So like that high 4K number is resistance right now, and even lower. So there's plenty. We're just forming resistance for ZRX. We're not really seeing signs yet that it's going to stop bleeding, even though we have the bullish divergence in the RSI. I'm not really seeing it in the OBV. Before this last candle, I'd say maybe it has a chance to flatten out. But right now, it looks like it will probably retest the lower shadow of this hammer candle. Let's just kind of jump around. Feel free to throw out those chart requests. Let's take a look here. What am I interested in doing next? We did that. Let's take a look at EOS for Frankie. So what's EOS doing? EOS had kind of that tower top pattern. We talked about the tower top before. I'll pull it up one more time, just in case you were just checking in for the first time. So we kind of had that tower top construction where you were looking for the BART down, with this doji and the spinning top. We didn't quite get the Maribozu down, that we had on the way up. I actually thought this was consolidating nicely. I thought this was kind of like a nice bull flag, especially on the lower time frames, a 12-hour chart. It just looked to me like it was getting loaded nicely. So I'm a little bit taken back by this candle. I have to reassess it. What's important now is to do that resistance support flip. Okay? Keep talking about it, right? Why do we keep talking about it? Because it matters. It's important. So on the first hold, and if you're trying to predict, if you're setting your levels, you're trying to figure out, where's the price likely to find support? What's an area of demand? An area of demand is this resistance turned into support, and we see it now tested, established once. So you have to continue to hold this level to get a little bit of confidence back, from bulls or anyone else, maybe even traders at this point. So I think definitely 8,400, you want to see that continue to hold. This is some distribution here. People are dumping a little bit, so you want to keep an eye on that. But right back at an area of support, right? Same thing with the price. You're seeing it in the OBV. You kind of had that support resistance flip. So that's kind of interesting. Let's move on next to, let's just do a couple more here, my friends. Let's see. We did EOS. Let's do POE for fit pills. Okay, let's take a look at POE. It's funny. None of the ones I'm watching, I have a couple I'm watching closely, or a few here. You guys aren't sniffing them out yet. So let's take a look here, because there's a bunch of nice setups. But I think Yeah. There's a bunch of plays worth watching right now. All right, so let's take a look here at POE. P-O-E. Doesn't look terrible. We EMA 34 rejection. We see the eight crossed the 20. The 8 crossed the 20 and then kind of came back. So we see kind of like a failed, could be another kind of failed move here. See the 8 trying to cross and kind of turning down. And we had a little bit of a warning sign on Poe here with these with this high wave spinning top, long-legged doji, and kind of formed kind of like a triple top. We get a tweezer, turn into a triple top, a bearish harami, also inside bar as well in these two candles, 23rd, 24th. So you're pulling back, you have middle Bollinger support. May want to test a little bit lower, but you're working on that support resistance flip as well. Resistance from that initial move back down, found support there. So you're at an area of demand. The only question is really if it will hold. 13 says you called the XRP dip. I mean, everything dipped. I wasn't convinced it was bouncing. I haven't looked at it yet. Let's look at it just because you asked. Yeah. I mean, it was right there, though. Daily chart. What did I say? EMA 34 rejection. I don't want to say I told you, but because it could very well be due to the pullback in Bitcoin. A lot of these things are pulling back. But even before that, it was stalling. You saw that yesterday when you had this inside bar, that looked like it was slowing down at the EMA 34. So I just didn't, people jumped in after these two candles, but where was the follow through? So now that's resistance. We're pulling back. Where's support right there? So 4,800, a couple hundred points lower. That's where you need to start to hold support, maybe down to 47 potentially. So we'll see. But it looks like bears have the edge for now. And you could just see, and it just also look how weak the on balance volume was when all these are fantastic traders, by the way. Many of them way better than me. But look at the OBV, and they were longing on this. I just don't get it. But that's what's great. Everyone looks at it differently. But I just didn't get it, man. Dude, everyone longed XRP, and he's probably a better trader than I am. He's really good. So it's just it's just this. We all see things differently. That's what's interesting, right? So what are you gonna do? Let's take a look at WTC. WTC Walton coin. All right, ZIL. I'll do ZIL, and that's done because you asked for it. Let's take a look at WTC. I was watching this one for a while. Might have run into trouble just because of Bitcoin, kind of a nasty upper shadow. What's going to happen now on this inverted hammer, this last candle, it's probably going to range again for a while. Given that move. I mean, the Bollingers were tight. It looked like it was holding support, and you could see while it was holding support, a little bit of bullish divergence. It just seemed to have kind of flattened out. I was watching this because it just seemed like it was flattening out, and it was an area that made sense, right? Why did that area make sense, right? Here's why. It's right about there, right? So it kind of made sense to hold here. It's the ideal level of support. It's where bulls had in the past said, I'm willing to defend this territory. And that's what happened. And we were kind of right there. Had that little dip. Looks like that was kind of a bear trap. And really nice volume, but now we have the upper shadow. So it's an inverted hammer. It's a reversal candle, but it probably needs to kind of catch up. So I will definitely continue to be watching this one. I'm going to watch to see the texture of these candles, the buying and selling candles. Let's take a look at ZIL, and then I'm going to do Bitcoin, and then I'm outie. So ZIL, I like ZIL. And it bounced kind of perfectly off this lower trend line. I like the fact, look how strong this on balance volume was. And you had, what's notable about ZIL is you had the lack of volume on these sell-off candles. So that told me that people were still holding, and you kind of have this rising area of support. We're kind of right at it. I think bulls are in a good position to continue on here because we're not seeing a lot of selling on this candle. So this looks like a very nice risk reward to me, ZIL. Right there, you can see kind of everything's mid-channel. You have plenty of room to run. And resistance, look where you are in relation to resistance. You know, if you can get a nice little pop, that's a nice window. That's it's like a 25, 30% move, more than that. 70, it's like a 30, yeah, it's like a 30% move if you can get 70 points out of that, or 60 points, a little bit less than 30%. So from here looks like a nice potential trade. You know, I'm definitely a fan of ZIL. Let's zoom back to Bitcoin. So I started out on the 15-minute chart. I took you through the 15-minute chart, the 1-hour chart. We looked at the 4-hour. We did the 12-hour chart, and we did the weekly chart. And I was trying to show you, I was trying to demonstrate that it's important to put things in perspective. And it's very easy to get caught up in the moment. And by doing that, by reviewing all those time frames, it really helps you to stay grounded. So what are we seeing here in the 15-minute chart? We're trying to break the 8 EMA. We're watching the 8 EMA, the green line. That would be the first sign potentially of some kind of recovery. We've noted on higher time frames. We noted on the 1 hour. I'm not impressed with the volume on the bull candles. We noted on the 4 hour that we had kind of an oversold big dip and kind of an oversold bounce. Look how far below you know, the Bollinger Band we were. We talked about how we moved in relation to this pinch. We talked about the 12-hour chart here on Bitcoin, and we talked about how we pulled back to an area of supply. You have all this consolidation here on the 12-hour chart right in that 8K area. And we talked about the daily chart as well, pulled back to the middle Bollinger area. And we talked about how the bearish divergence really gave us an early clue. We had bearish divergence with the lower high and the OBV versus the price. And we had that kind of early clue back in the 27th and 28th. I tweeted about that. So hopefully you picked up on that. But we're going to continue to watch it. What's important, my friends, is we want to see you want to see how the bulls respond. Okay, it's important to see how the bulls respond. Bulls have been in charge and they've been on a crazy run. But right, if you look at the daily chart, if you look at the weekly chart, see how long we've been in overbought territory in the stochastics, and look at the RSI and the weekly. So you can totally understand if the price needs to pull back and find some kind of healthy support. Is this a sustained pullback, or is this a pullback within the move? We don't know yet. That's why we're watching the fall through, right? Is this just a bearish? Is this a bear pennant that's breaking down? Are we breaking the EMA 8, the green line resistance? You know, we're going to have to keep an eye on that. I want to remind you can find me on Twitter at BigCheds. I'm on YouTube at Cheds Trading. Please subscribe if you do not already. Please check out my good friend Big Chonas on Twitter at Big Chonas. He's Chonas Trading on YouTube, where he does a great job. He also has a one-on-one mentoring service. Ask him about it. He's also a contributor to Bitcoin Live, where I'm a founding analyst at the best-in-class educational platform for crypto. My webinar is available on YouTube. You can watch it and learn about why I'm involved in this project, why I'm so proud of it. Right, you get access to not only my content, but there are, I believe, 9 total contributors. There's educational content, fundamental analysis, technical analysis, timely alerts with entry level, stop loss level targets. I've trading articles in trading psychology. I have several candlestick trading guides. And it's really just a great project. I'm really proud to be involved in it. And if you're looking to kind of take your trading to the next level, I definitely encourage you to check that out. The sign up link is in this video thread and on my Twitter page. We have a monthly and a quarterly option. If you're interested in checking out the platform before committing for a full year, which is the best deal, it's just a great project. If you have any questions, please do ask me about that. I'll be happy to talk about that with you. But otherwise, I really thank everyone for joining tonight. Hopefully this helped you. Hopefully, this opened your eyes a little bit, and it maybe opened my eyes as well, talking to you guys and just kind of looking at everything. And just I wish you all the best. If you have any questions, I'm sure you know where to find me. But until then, Big Cheds out, and everybody take care. Peace.